Hill-Stead Museum in Farmington is an important cultural and recreational resource within easy reach of all the cities and towns in central Connecticut. Hill-Stead Museum is a place where art and nature flourish together, just as the family that designed this estate intended. Hill-Stead is a colonial revival house built at the turn of the 20th century and maintained just as it was when the family that built it lived here. Hill-Stead is their outstanding art collection. Hill-Stead is 150 acres of fields, trails, and scenic views. Hill-Stead is May Market and other seasonal events. Hill-Stead is also a beautiful sunken garden, the site of the annual Sunken Garden Poetry Festival. This program and the ones that follow are an invitation to attend this summer's series of poetry and music events.
For this series of programs, we have picked readings from the summer of 2016. We hope they will give you an idea of what it's like to spend an evening or an afternoon in the Sunken Garden at Hill-Stead Museum. And we hope you'll join us during our 25th anniversary season in 2017. This summer, Hill-Stead welcomes the following poets. On opening night, we welcome back Billy Collins on Wednesday, June 21st. On Sunday, July 9th, Jamal May and Tarfia Fazula will perform in the garden. On Wednesday, July 19th, we welcome Cornelius Eady, along with the winner of the 2017 Sunken Garden Poetry Prize. On Sunday, August 6th, Mark Doty and Eileen Miles. On Wednesday, August 16th, it's Connecticut Young Poets Day. We welcome our Fresh Voices student competition winners, along with Ocean Vong. People love the informality and outdoor setting of this festival. You can bring lawn chairs or blankets, pack a picnic, or buy dinner and wine from the vendors here. There's an hour of live music first, anything from jazz to folk to classical, and then you can hear some of the best poets in the country read poetry that is relevant and accessible. One of the country's leading poetry events, the festival introduces audience to U.S. and state poets laureate, Pulitzer Prize winners, and other major American poets in the intimate, informal setting of this historic garden. The festival's ongoing popularity is evidence that poetry still holds an important place in American culture, and that poetry has a unique power to remind us of our own common humanity.
I'm now very pleased to welcome to the stage John Stanizzi. He's an outstanding poet here in Connecticut and a key member of Hill-Stead Museum's Poetry Advisory Committee, which helps to form the programming for the Poetry Festival each year. John also helps us to organize our Fresh Voices Student Poetry Competition, and he is going to act as MC for our Fresh Voices winners, as they all have an opportunity to come up here and read on the main stage. So please welcome John Stanizzi to Hill-Stead.
Well, hello everyone. This is my favorite evening of the festival because we get to hear the young voices. Welcome to the Fresh Voices segment. And first of all, special thanks, of course, to the Connecticut Humanities, to Susan Ballack for continuing her support of this vital program for our young writers. Thanks to Kate Ebner, my partner in this endeavor, for all her hard work. The Fresh Voices competition is open to high school students from all over Connecticut. Their manuscripts are submitted, and between Kate and Brett Maddox and me, we pare down the entrance to about 15 or 16 poets. We invite them to come up to the makeshift theater and read before a live audience and a panel of judges. This year's panel comprising Susan Ballack, Professor Kieran Berry from Trinity, and the chair of the English department at Farmington High School, Dan Tartarelli, and those are the folks who end up choosing the 4 or 5 outstanding Connecticut poets. And then, thanks to Rennie McQuilkin, my dear, dear friend, Connecticut Poet Laureate and publisher of Antrim House Books, the young poets are published in a book donated by Rennie and Antrim House Press. Let's read some poetry. So the first poet tonight is Owen Elphick. Owen is a recent graduate of E.O. Smith High School. There's a lot to say about Owen. Among the outstanding things to say about him is this, that he received, besides a number of hugely important honors, his selection as the 2015 Poetry Out Loud State Champion for Connecticut, in which capacity he then went on to the 2015 National Championship in Washington, D.C., and made it to the top 9 in the nation. From E.O. Smith, Owen Elphick.
Thank you, John, and thank you to everyone who made this possible. This means a lot to me. So the first poem I'm going to read, the title of this poem is an Urdu word, which it has no perfect direct translation to English. I keep thinking about that picture you texted me, about that word that will not leave me. There is a break in consciousness, a spark in the senses when I say it. Rabita. It echoes in the space between us, stretching across it, connecting us. It is a bridge traversing our ocean, built on nothing but a few symbols that spell us out and the sound of a word that says everything. Rabita. I search for its meaning, but there is nothing in English sufficient to capture and cage it, not relation, not contact, not even inexplicable connection with another soul. No. We are untranslatable. We have no definition. We just are. Rabita. Thank you. This last one, I wrote this, I don't want to say on commission because that makes it sound like I was paid, but this grassroots organization called Smart is Cool requested that I write this next poem. They asked me to write a poem about what I thought smart looked like for the 21st century, and this is what I wrote instead. I hope you like it. It's called Smarter. I used to think that being smart meant what everyone told me it meant. I thought it meant your hand hitting the air, Hermione Granger style, before anyone else's had time to consider assent. I thought it meant knowing all the answers immediately and not showing it if you didn't, raising your hand even if you had nothing to say. I thought it meant reading like a speed demon, needing the next book before the others even finished the first chapter of theirs. I thought it meant writing more than anyone else, fighting only for yourself, solving complex equations, memorizing the dates of invasions, and prizing the grades I made with my wealth of knowledge more than I did myself. I thought it meant enrichment and AP classes, straight A's and amazing grades, stickers and stars, and not having to try hard to get them, being automatically ahead of everyone else in a great race, having a quicker pace. Never mind, I burned through pages and words and numbers and thoughts, too fast to grasp their meaning, to ask myself what I was seeing before it shriveled away to ash in my mind. I thought being smart meant not needing to be kind. I thought it meant being blessed and cursed, in the best and worst possible way. I thought it meant being hated, picked on and teased by the small-minded and weak, those too stupid to matter, pathetic fools just chattering, pretending to be not to be jealous, pretending to be better than they really were, and pretending that those who really were better were worse. I thought being smart meant being better. That was all I'd ever known. I thought being smart meant being alone. And I thought that was okay, because I thought being smart meant you didn't need anyone anyway. I used to think that being smart meant what everyone told me it meant. I'm smarter now than I was then. Thank you all so much.
Chloe Ezzo will be a senior at the Kingswood Oxford School in West Hartford. She began to write poetry this past winter, and she will be forever grateful to her English teacher, Mrs. Kasprick, who taught her to love poetry and encouraged her to write, and also to Miss Shefflin for her insightful suggestions and always being there to listen. Inspired by a couple of pretty good writers, Richard Wilbur and Robert Frost. From Kingswood Oxford, Chloe Ezzo.
Hello, everyone. This first poem was inspired by Polonius's line in Hamlet, "To thine own self be true." Sound advice. The echo of 1,000 voices only makes a great cacophony, and false songs most of them will sing in discord rather than harmony, 50 cents sharp or 30 cents flat, never to be locking. And it's worse still when these murky counselors whisper from within, calling up from deepest depths to offer yet another glimpse of the malleable internal portrait, an unfinished work forever glossy, whose shifting features are imprinted differently in every witness. These contradictory vines tangle and bind to the point of paralysis, brought on by a fevered mind insensible to light. Instead, they dwell in the uncertain penumbra, unfit lodgment to say the least. In turbulent times, there is an inclination to turn to those steeped in experience and bend the ear toward their sage advice, but too often, these are the same that will eagerly provide the mold, but lack the forbearance to fill it with equal measure. From such an encounter, the torque of the turn will be compounded until the motion becomes nothing but a circular spin. How can one be true to thine own self, if thine self be as formless as the vapors composing the air? He may have wished that this too solid flesh would melt. He must have forgotten that we are liquid on the inside.
Thank you, Chloe Ezzo. Our next poet, Leah Nashel, lives in Newtown and is a recent graduate of Westover School. Several of her poems have been published in Westover's literary magazine, The Lantern, along with some of her artwork as well. Leah will be attending the National Theater Institute this fall before joining the mid-year class of 2020 at Brandeis University, where she plans to pursue her interest in acting, writing, studio art, and vocal performance. From Westover School, Leah Nashel.
Hi, everyone. My first poem is about an aunt of mine who I didn't get to know for very long. Dandelions rippling through the green remind me I should remember more than their flashes of life upon the breeze-swept hill where gray rocks rose to receive bouquets of finer flowers. I can't recall her flowing through pirouettes, but I remember the crunch of the stem between my 3-year-old fingers as I laid a splash of yellow at the feet of a dancer trapped beneath her name in a graven arabesque, mocking listless limbs that wither out of reach of dandelion roots. She was a blur of raspberry lip gloss and wispy brown hair who squealed tickle time as she squashed my cheek against the scratchy futon, giggling when I struggled to breathe, wishing she would turn to empty air. The man who spoke beside the stone said we would hear her voice in the breeze, but I didn't believe him. She was just a glimpse of white teeth caught in photographs, a black handbag wrapped in cool metal sequins that I poured against my palms, a swirl of tangled silver in a jewelry box my mother keeps closed, a cluttered shelf of cheap porcelain angels. She was the reason people slumped on my grandmother's couches, their faces tear-splashed or tense, flushed or stone, while I licked the red jelly from the heart of a bland, flower-shaped cookie and wondered why no one was happy. This next poem I don't think needs much of an introduction, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Child's Play. So I can't give her away, my Barbie doll, or let my mother see. She has a dull pink stain between her thighs, faded pigment of a brown Crayola marker that wouldn't wash away. In vain I scrubbed the color that had pulsed from my marker's tip as nipple-less, bow-armed her body received it, pink to complete each breast, brown to cloak the triangle, the lady parts plastic, manicured, perpetually clean-shaven, now almost soft, sweaty almost, like my hands, before they chilled, stiff, and I tried to wash away the deed, shoulders tensed in case the bathroom door flew open. Honey, time for dinner. What are you doing with that Barbie in the sink? The soap suds turning brown and blush, rusty drops rolling off plastic thighs, catching in the indent of her belly button, leaving traces of desire on imitation flesh.
Leah Nashel, everyone. So our next poet is Josari Padilla. She's a creative writing senior from the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts. Her long-term goals are to become a professional makeup artist as well as to publish books of poetry and essays. Her work is inspired by, as she says, the candidness and thematic values of Sharon Olds, Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, and Lucille Clifton. She was the 2015 recipient of the Wallace Stevens Friends and Enemies of Poetry Scholarship and was published in the winter issue of the Teenage Wasteland Review. From the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts, Josari Padilla.
Hi. So the first poem I will be reading is called Ocean Baptism. The thick, warm water trails over my face, clogging my pores with salt and specks of sunlight. I'm scared of the sting of open eyes, but I don't want to be left blind beneath the surface. Swaying my fingers, I watch the water distort, and I see his face. His brown eyes rival the darkness around him, unblinking, unwavering. My bones become heavier. The water tugs at my body, pulling me towards the ocean floor. He sinks with me. His translucent hands float above him, pale palms facing upwards. The distance between us shrinks. His lifeless limbs, which once warmed my cold fingers, now cause me to shudder. The abyss solidifies into ice, and our bodies become stuck, like insects frozen in amber. I want to bear no scars of loss of childhood or misplaced faith. I want the salt that seeps into my skin, to cleanse me of nights spent mourning the secrets that died with him. This second poem is called Bathtub Baptism. The bathroom ceiling ruptured. Cold drops of water and clumps of plaster fell onto my bare shoulders. They traveled down my back to my hips that used to proudly display bruises he left behind. My scarred knees were raw, aching from the tub of cloudy boiling water. I swore I saw his hands reach out from beneath the surface and spread my legs apart. I submerged my body until my eyelashes floated like dark seaweed. The water burned my lips, and I was reminded of his teeth trying their hardest to draw blood. It was safe there, where my joints only groaned about the small tub and not a stiff mattress. The smell of molding drywall covered the aftertaste of his chapstick, and I counted the seconds before I needed to breathe. The burn in my throat fought with the tightness in my chest. I heard his voice, and a slice through me. My hands instinctively went for my neck, half expecting to feel his bony fingers. My body shut up to the cold air of the bathroom. A drop of water fell onto my head, and I watched his hands disappear as I took a breath. This last poem was inspired by Sylvia Plath, and it's called The Hanging Man. I thought bath water would cleanse me of your staining touch. Instead, I drowned, and I saw your hands dive for my neck. The moonlight gave birth to infinite black holes in your chest. We were in a planetarium when you said you felt nothing. And there's something beautiful about a tree reaching towards the constellations, but there are no clears of stars that hang like fruit. In your incessant gaze, I grew limp like an uprooted weed, underneath a sky of woven flowers that resembled your face. Thank you.
Josari Padilla. So this September, Abby Rose Papalizio will enter her senior year at Haddam Killingworth High School. She studies creative writing there with her teacher and mentor and inspiration, Jamie Alessandrine. Abby was, for a time, homeschooled so that she could dance full-time in a pre-professional ballet company. From Haddam Killingworth High School, Abby Rose Papalizio.
Hello. The first poem I'm reading doesn't need much of an explanation. Ode to the Lens of the Invisible. I want to photograph the things you do not see. I want to photograph that old Russian man on the 6 train, mumbling over a red rosary and muttering on about the motherland. I want to photograph the calloused hands of a terrorist. I want to photograph your chapped lips, kissing the heads of martyrs, kissing the triggers of sniper rifles, all in black and white. I want to photograph the breath in your chest that is tainted with the acid burn of acrid air. I want to photograph the stains that are left between unspoken words and the memories that beg to be forgotten. I want to photograph your eyes through the reflection of a butcher's knife. I want to photograph the sighs that leave the lips of a woman who is shrouded in black and oppressed by the scent of turmeric and curry. I want to photograph how it feels to scar your skin with the names of forgotten lovers, and how, whenever I hear your name, my tongue turns to that of a cat's, prickled and dry, with a thirst that only you can quench, all with 35mm film. I want to photograph the blackness in your soul that bleeds your blood red and runs your veins violet, like the cracked leather that adorns your back everywhere you go, from opium dens, fairy floss dreams, and vanishing carnival shows, all with my mother's forgotten Polaroid, the one that ran out of ink and reveals everything you do not see. This next poem is about a very special time in my life when I lived in New York. Brooklyn number 4. I have known the grit of city skin, scratching my thighs on the green line, trapping scabbed over sin under my plastic nails. Nostalgia drips from my drugstore lips, and the names of all the strangers I've met burn a hole in my throat. I try to scream, ashes smoldering with lies fall from my mouth. The man sitting next to me sees. He gets off at 6th Street. Am I in Coney Island now? Fizzling pastel neon and jarring screams, I lust the innocence around me. Dirty sand in my teeth. Vanilla ice cream clouds my eyes. These sweet summer cataracts blind me. But I can still see the skin of my thighs, calloused with the pick scars of sin, begging it to be picked again and again until I can see my blood turn to bone. It is too late to go back. I will never go back. Thank you.
Abby Rose Papalizio. And so there they are, this year's Fresh Voices poets: Owen Elphick, Chloe Ezzo, Leah Nashel, Josari Padilla, and Abby Rose Papalizio. And thanks to Rennie McWilkin and Antrim House Press, you can purchase a book of their poetry up in that area at intermission and after the readings. Thank you very, very much.